Okay, taking up where we left off, I just finished up the back wall and was about to set it on there, but somehow I lost that last little bit of video. But it was just me standing the wall on the back side. You'll get to see that here in a little bit. Right now we're going to put the decking on the floor, and I'm also going to add some screen to the floor for let's just say something to prevent you from having to clean as much, because chickens do go to the bathroom while they're sleeping, and I didn't want to have to go out and clean up a giant pile underneath, or I should say on the bottom of the pin. So here we go. I'm going to rip this board in half to get a 4 foot by 4 foot square, and then I'm going to use it to cut into a little bit smaller pieces in order to finish up the deck, so that I can place the walls in place and get that all ready to be put together. Okay, so from my 4 foot by 4 foot square panel here, or decking I should say, I'm going to cut off 25 inches. So it's going to be 4 foot by 25. This will be for underneath the nesting boxes. And once the walls are placed on, I'll have roughly a 9.5 inch solid floor walk directly in front of the nesting boxes, and as you'll see here in a moment. Okay, so if you're building this on location, you're perfectly fine, but I would highly recommend that you move it to where you want it before you build it, if you can get all the way around it. If you're going to put it up against a wall, I'll show you a point at which you should move it a little bit later on in the video before it gets too heavy. Okay, I was about to nail this on. That's a Cinco, it's a staple gun. I was about to nail this on when I realized what I was doing and had to go get the wire mesh for the bottom half of the cage. Okay, this stuff is half-inch square wire mesh. It's 2 foot by however long that was. It was a leftover piece from a different project I had done, but it was perfect size because it's 2 foot and just a little longer than 4 foot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flush this out on the back edge and on the leading edge, and then I'm going to tack it in place, and then all the decking will go over the top of it. Later on during the build, I'm going to reinforce the underside of it so that it does not sag over time, and you'll see me do that. Okay, there's no real need to tack this down a whole lot, but I'm using a staple gun, so you just hold it in place, and I used way more than I really needed. I could have just did one in each corner, but I like to make sure everything's held down real good. So if you want to waste some staples, by all means go ahead and tack it down good. Okay, at this point I'm putting the lower deck on. I'm flushing out the corners with the sides of the 4x stand, and I'm going to nail that in place. This actually overlaps the wiring that I just put on by approximately 1 to 3/4 of an inch. I think it was exactly 1 inch if I remember right. Okay, so let's take a look at the screen. All we need to do is trim off the excess nice and flush to the ridge. And according to this, we got 2 squares, so just a little tiny bit more than 1 inch overlap on that board, which is good. Alright, so now I'm going to start cutting the decking that will go over the top of that. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting off at the end of the other half of that 4-foot square 3 pieces. 2 pieces will be 3 inches wide and 1 piece will be 2 inches wide. The 2-inch wide piece will go in the center. The 2 3-inch pieces will go left and right, and then I'll make one more rip to along the longest portion to go along the furthest backside of the coop, and I'll have to check my measurement on that, but for now let's watch this. Okay, here's another section where I apparently lost some video because I had already cut the long board off of that before I cut the 3 strips. The long board in the back was the width of a 2x4, so that the 2x4 would sit directly on top of it, and then I cut the 2 pieces at 3 inches and the 1 piece at 2 inches. The 1 piece at 2 inches is in the middle, the 2 3-inch pieces are on the sides. But you get the idea, so I'm sure you figure it out. There's me showing I'm going to put some dividers in here to support the wire from sagging. Okay, so here's the point where we start putting up the walls. Yay! Flush out the coop box nice and even and straight. Now again, you can nail this down, screw it down, however you want to do it. If you're using screws, you can just do 1 screw on the right, 1 screw on the left, 1 screw somewhere close to center. Should be plenty strong enough. Me, I'm just going to nail it down nice and good with the nail gun. Okay, so this will become the front of the entrance way to the chicken coop. You want the 2x4 that's flush with the bottom 2x4 facing your nest boxes, and then you're going to measure 1 foot from face to face. The nest box dividers will be placed in here after the sidewalls go on. This is going to have a angle upward for a lid so that you can reach in and collect the eggs. You could just nail this on straight up right now, but I felt it'd be easiest and best just to go ahead and put the back wall on it before I nail it to the back, and I didn't want it to get too heavy before we carried it to the final location over by the chicken run that I plan on putting it. And it's me double checking my measurements for the cutting of the outside walls. Okay, had a error on one of the videos that showed me nailing on the back part of the wood, but I'm sure you can figure out how to nail on a piece of wood onto the back side of the back wall. I did overlap the bottom part of that wall by about a ½ inch below the wall itself, so that when it's placed on, it overlaps the 2x4 base by about a ½ inch. It doesn't have to be a ½ inch, it could be an inch. You can go all the way down so that you don't see any of that 2x4 coating. It just depends on how much you want to make on it. Alright, what I'm doing here is dropping my stuff. No, just kidding. I'm marking off the cuts that I plan on doing for the rafters, and I'm doing that before I put the sidewalls on so that I can do it a little bit easier, because they don't have to be exact, but these are going to be for the upper ceiling, because I do plan on making it to where I can lift it and remove it, and I don't want it to be sliding off, and I don't want to have to try and nail these boards on it at an angle. So I used a small cut off, set it on top, and then outlined it, That'll give me a perfect gauge to cut out so that I can just set the 2x4 or nail the 2x4 to the roofing material and then just literally lay it on. You'll see what I'm talking about later on in the video. You don't have to do this step right now. As far as the length of that particular board, it's up to you. I hung it over about 1.5 inches in the back and about 3 inches in the front, so that the rain will run off and not wind up on the wood itself. I only plan on using 2 of these, one on each side. Okay, so that's pretty much that. Now let's get a good close-up look at how I just drew it on there. That little notch right there will be cut out. If you want to make the roof permanent, just put 2 nails up. 2 nails up. You don't really need to. I don't plan on nailing my roof on because once it's sitting on that like that with them notches, there's no way it's going to slide off. So it's better if you just leave it unnailed so that you can remove the roof entirely if you absolutely need to be able to get all the way in there. And then I'll show you how I cut the notches. Circular saw will work really good, but basically just line up your angle, cut in the notch, and then the table saw will probably be the best bet for the longer angle, but for the short cut into the 2x4, the chop saw will work better. Skill saw will work good too. Just adjust the height and the angle. Be real careful cutting angles with a skill saw. You can definitely get yourself. Okay, there you go. It'll be a perfect fit. So the roof This will sit on the back and front walls and never have to worry about it sliding because it's actually sitting on a flat surface even though it's in an angle.